Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video. Today we are starting League One predictions on a weekly basis. If you like this kind of content, drop a like and subscribe. You know we do regular Premier League and Championship predictions, but now we're doing League One predictions, and I'll tell you what, it's a great league. So like, subscribe and look forward to these every weekend. Let's get into the games then, guys. Let's start with Accrington Stanley versus Morecambe. This is a massive game for Morecambe because they are 23rd. 10 places separate these two sides and Morecambe do not want to be cut adrift. To be honest, I think we all expected them to be in the battle, but I'm not saying it's impossible that they stay up. Accrington Stanley are a solid side. They're looking solid. Morecambe have got the worst XG against in the league, so lots of chances are being created against them. I feel like they could be able to somehow snatch a draw out of this game. If they can stay in this and stay tight, I think they could. I'm going to start with a 1-1 draw. Next up then, we move on to Bolton Wanderers versus Lincoln City. Really interesting match this because both sides come into this with quite a bit of positivity. Bolton with 3 wins in a row, but Lincoln City really impressing in those last 2 results against Derby County. And that 6-3 win at Bristol Rovers, the goals are flying in for them at both ends. I think this could be a really entertaining game. Lincoln, like I say, with back-to-back wins. Bolton coming into this looking good, just outside the playoffs. But I'm going to go for Lincoln City just based on the fact they were so impressive at Bristol Rovers. I feel like if they hit the back of the net a couple of times, it could be enough to get the result over the line. Bolton, I still think, are a playoff hopeful this season. I think they could do it. But Lincoln, with a little bit of rhythm going, I might just edge them. Could be an interesting game. Bolton 1, Lincoln City 2. Next up, we'll move on to a big game between Burton Albion and Forest Green Rovers. This is huge because both sides are not doing amazing. Forest Green are a newly promoted side, but after winning League 2, some people might have thought they'd do better than they have done so far. Massive opportunity for both teams to pick up points, and I am leaning towards Forest Green. Burton have been terrible. They're 24th, 4 points from 10 games. I think Burton look like the worst side, and it'd be incredible. It'd be a miracle if they survive. I don't see them getting anything here. Forest Green have picked up 5 points on the road, only the 1 defeat on the road, so I'm going to go for them to get a quite convincing 2-0 win at the Pirelli. Next up, we'll move on to an absolutely massive game where Derby County go away to Cambridge United. Derby County are second on the XG. They're looking really good. They're creating good chances. Can they start converting that into points on the board? I do expect them to be up there this season. Meanwhile, Cambridge United, who could be leapfrogged by Derby here, are still in the playoff mix, albeit they've conceded the most goals of all the teams above the bottom 4, so that's a bit of a worry. Can they grind out a clean sheet here? I don't think so. I think Derby are going to walk away 2-0 winners. 2-0 to the Rams. Next up, we'll move on to the Vale as Charlton host Oxford. 2 sides coming into this, not in great form to be honest. 2 good clubs that I would have thought would be closer to the playoffs maybe, especially Oxford. They're really underperforming, and Charlton have said good club, I like them. Can they get a win here? I wouldn't have thought so. They've lost 3 out of 4 of their away games. Meanwhile, Charlton Athletic are unbeaten at home so far. They are 16th in the table, but I might edge Charlton. I'm going to go 2-1 to Charlton Athletic. Next up, we'll move on to a massive game between Cheltenham Town and Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury looking really good at the moment. They are up to 9th now and really impressing in some recent results. Meanwhile, Cheltenham are above the bottom 4, but only just. Obviously, it's their second season. They'll be looking to survive again, and it looks like it could be tight. They could do with a result here. I think Shrewsbury probably will be made favourites for this one. Both sides have been involved in some open games. I think it might be a draw with Cheltenham being at home, and I'm going to go for a thriller. Why not? 3-3. Next up is a massive one as 2 of the newly promoted sides meet at St James's Park. Exeter City versus Bristol Rovers. Got to say, Bristol Rovers, the problem seems to be consistency. They are consistently conceding a lot of goals though. 20 goals conceded, which is a cause for concern. They need a bounce back after that Lincoln City defeat. Meanwhile, Exeter City had a very good start, but they did lose their last home game against Burton Albion, the only team that's dished out 3 points to Burton Albion. I think this is a massive opportunity for both. Exeter City could win and really climb back towards that top 6 again. Bristol Rovers against another newly promoted side here. I think they need to outscore them because defensively I don't see them keeping a clean sheet, and I'm going to go for the gas to edge it. It wouldn't surprise me if Bristol Rovers take quite a few travelling fans down to this one. They are a well supported club. Exeter 1, Bristol Rovers 2. Next up, we'll move on to Highbury as Fleetwood take on Barnsley. This is a massive game for Barnsley as they are looking like one of the in-form teams in the division, and they just want to keep moving up and maybe try and break into that top 3 soon. Meanwhile, Fleetwood have drawn 6 of 9 games, a bit of an anomaly. They'll probably be thinking a draw's not a terrible result against Barnsley, but there's probably been a few games they've been involved in where they might have won. I think I'm going to edge Barnsley. Based on the good form, stronger squad, I think the Tykes will get away. I think it could be tight based on the fact Fleetwood are drawing quite a lot, but I think Barnsley might get out of there with a 1-0 win. 1-0 to the Tykes. Next up, this is huge as we go to Portman Road. Ipswich take on Portsmouth. Both sides are looking good. Both always going to be strong favourites in League One because they're good clubs, good fan bases and good squads, to be honest. They're both looking good. Ipswich did just lose to Plymouth. Meanwhile, Portsmouth are still unbeaten, and this is really hard to separate because Ipswich are at home and Portsmouth are unbeaten. This is a real tricky one. Portsmouth are third, but they've played a game less. If they win that game in hand, they could be top. Meanwhile, Ipswich is showing up really good on all the metrics and stats. They are creating a lot of good chances, and defensively they're keeping things quite tight as well. Should be winning more than they actually have as well. Oh, this is tricky. I don't want to be boring and go for a draw, so I might just go for a 1-0 to Pompey. I think Portsmouth might be able to sneak a win out of this one. Massive game. The winner of that will be high on confidence because it is two of the best clubs locking horns at Portman Road. Next up, we'll move on to Stadium MK as MK Dons take on Peterborough United. Peterborough have lost 4 away games in a row. They are still up there though because they only seem to win or lose. Meanwhile, MK Dons are not looking as good as last season. They're not showing up great on the expected goals, but I still think that squad is better than where they are in the table, and I do think they'll start to pull some more results together and climb maybe towards the top half. I might just edge them here based on Peterborough's inconsistency. 2-1 to MK Dons. Next up, we'll go to Vale Park as Port Vale take on Sheffield Wednesday. This is a big game because Port Vale are doing all right for a newly promoted team so far. They want to keep the points coming in. Meanwhile, Sheffield Wednesday want to keep up the pace with a very strong top 6 this season. Sheffield Wednesday are the top scorers in the league. They're sat in 4th. They just need to be a bit more tight at the back and they'll be winning more games than they are. Port Vale, meanwhile, have only lost 1 game at home. They're 15th, which, like I say, for a newly promoted side isn't bad. I do think I'm going to have to go for Sheffield Wednesday. They are scoring lots of goals. Port Vale 1, Sheffield Wednesday 3. The last game then is between Wycombe Wanderers and Plymouth Argyle. You might look at the 2 in the table and think this is a Plymouth win, but there might be a little bit more to it than that. Wycombe are creating a lot of chances on the expected goals. They should be scoring more. Defensively though, they are looking quite poor and a lot of chances are being created against them. So I think they might be able to get on the score sheet here, but I don't know if they'll keep a clean sheet. Meanwhile, Plymouth looking very good against Ipswich on Sky Sports on Sunday. They're top of the league. Maybe slightly overperforming, looking at their expected goals. They could be around 8th, but it shows they're being clinical and taking their chances. I might just edge Wycombe to get something as they're the home side here. Wycombe 1, Plymouth Argyle 1. That wraps up my predictions for the upcoming League One games, guys. This is a mental division, so if you want to see more of this content, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Get involved, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.